Welcome to Geeksphere.tv, episode 16.1. This is the video companion podcast to the audio show that we've just recorded. I'm your host, Bradley Burrows, and I'm joined tonight by the delicious Skip Parker. You knew that was coming, didn't you?
I did. We're getting too familiar in this set, I think. That's the problem.
Yeah, our new set's been a great success with everyone. Thank you so much for all your feedback. We've got an action-packed show tonight, so I'm going to kick straight into talking about iTunes.
Brilliant.
So iTunes has turned 10, and when we're on the audio show, we're having a really good discussion around what it actually meant for a lot of people. So just so we do a recap, 10 years ago, iTunes came out, and this is the iTunes Music Store.
Right.
And what it meant at the time was there was piracy was rife, Napster was out if we remember, there was a lot of gnashing of teeth from the music industry, and Steve Jobs in his genius came along and said, I'm going to commoditize all the music out there, I'm going to offer it for 99 cents. And the music industry went nuts. They said, we'll never survive.
Right, yep.
And where we are now is with things like Spotify, Pandora, Xbox Music, Twitter Music. Every music service has really been built around what Steve Jobs and his team did, right, getting all the music industry on board because the world didn't end. Music is still available out there. In fact, CDs and vinyl are doing better than they did a few years ago. And we've got all these services out there that are built around, are really what they pioneered 10 years ago with iTunes Music Store.
Yeah, for sure.
So
you know, the interesting thing about it is that that time was really quite tumultuous because you had the music industry, as you said, fighting against what Napster were doing. And of course, you've got the likes of Steve sort of coming into this space going, look, people are demanding this music in this format. Let's go for some low-hanging fruit success here and, you know, earn a few bucks out of doing it. It's quite a remarkable story because there are actually, it's the whole industry coming together to try and play this out, right? So you know, it's just a stunning story of success, which has borne out success in the movie industry and other places as well because they've seen the model actually working and not destroying the music industry as they thought it would do.
Now, if you remember back to 2003, in '99, Steve Jobs had just come back into Apple. Apple had, they report 60 days to go in where it was. They had obviously they'd pretty much got the iPod out there, but it needed the ecosystem to kick it off. And the iTunes concept, when they announced it and launched it, just blew everyone away. Because the ability where I could just buy one song for 99 cents, and a lot of bands now release their music straight to iTunes, and that's how they actually live and function. That is their whole ecosystem. They don't bother going to CD or vinyl like, you know, the traditional ways. And as you're right, you see it around the movies things. If you look at Netflix and QuickFlix here in New Zealand, again, these all come back to the days where they built up these relationships and got their video streaming services out there.
Absolutely, and I don't think that they would have got away with doing this without the innovative design of the iPod. I mean, it was such a revolutionary media entity or device to come out. It really set itself apart from everyone else. And of course, everyone wanted to be part of this new wave of demand, so what greater device to it? You know, you couldn't have got it with the other devices, like you couldn't see Sony, for example, going and saying, look, we've got the CD Walkman with MP3s on it, release that.
And that was still a big push at the time because I had one of those as well. And I also had an iRiver, which we talked about on the audio show, which was a little blue device which had a proprietary, what we'd call an SD card slot, which had 16 megabytes on it. And that was their version, but it was nothing as intuitive as the iPod with the wheel and everything like that.
And the iPod was definitely one of the first great disruptors in that space. I mean, it came in and it totally blew everything else out of the water, revolutionised and changed that whole space. You then had Microsoft coming on board and trying to replicate it with the Zune player, that kind, and lots of other places, you know, Android-based type players or Linux-type players that came along. So it's been an interesting journey, but 10 years, you know, should we crack open the cake or what?
No, look, it's really good to see, and again, I think it's a point in time that we'll remember back even in 20 years' time that this was sort of that seismic change that we needed in our industry to actually have consumerization of the services we want to use.
Right, very good. Now, we talked about disruptors, and Apple obviously is one of the great disruptor tech stories of our modern time because they have done it so many times across so many different market verticals. I want to talk about TechCrunch's Disrupt New York City, NYC.
Okay. So what is it?
Okay, so TechCrunch have put together basically it's a conference and it runs for a little while, April 27th to May the 1st, so it's currently on at the moment. And what they do is they gather people from all walks of life in parts of startup technology companies. So you've got your financial companies, the venture capitalists coming along. You've got CEOs of big companies like Yahoo and eBay, as well as organizations that are startups themselves and experts in this whole area. What they do is they get everyone together and they just encourage a whole heap of discussion around startups and how to kick off your basic idea, your startup idea. Now, what they've done is they have drawn in some big name actors, or I shouldn't say actors, but big names this year. So let me throw a few names at you. Marissa Mayer, Dennis Crowley, John Donahoe, and Ashton Kutcher.
So I know the last one accurately.
Shocker.
Give me the first two. Give me the first two. No, I know one or two, but give me.
Okay, so the first one, Marissa Mayer, is Yahoo.
Yep, obvious.
So, I mean, CEO of Yahoo, she has been huge. I mean, she's made a huge change, changed the fortune of that company quite a lot, I would put out there.
One of the more progressive CEOs in the market that's slashing and burning in the right way to actually get a product set and get the focus of the company in the right direction.
Yeah, very good. Now, the other one is Dennis Crowley. Now, he is from Foursquare.
Ah, okay.
So he was one of the co-founders of Foursquare. I don't know if you still use that. It's one of those technology ideas that sort of comes and goes, you know.
Yeah, you get addicted, they're not addicted. You're very competitive with a few people.
I'm trying to beat one person in particular, Nathan Mercer. I'm after you, but I just fear I'll never catch up. You're laughing now, I can tell. John Donahoe is from eBay. He's the president and CEO of eBay.
Okay, that's a big name.
Yep, and of course Ashton Kutcher, as you know. So they get these people in and they basically encourage them to mix and mingle and encourage some growth ideas around startups. Now, the other aspect of this is they have Startup Alley. Startup Alley is basically a whole venue. It's like an expo where people come along and pitch their startup ideas. So venture capitalists come in and sort of peruse through the thing, and then we also get to see some of that. It's interesting because there's actually got a real international flavour to that, in the sense they've got a lot of focus on Asian countries and they've got a lot of focus on the Brazilian countries.
China's
as well.
big, right? China's big.
Exactly, yep. So that's quite interesting. And the one thing that I really like the most is Startup Battlefield. Now,
okay, explain it to me.
This is fun, and this is actually one of the more exciting aspects of the event. Basically, they take a couple of startup groups, not all of them, but just a few, and they bring them up on stage to do a pitch in front of the audience. Alongside, they have celebrity guest judges. So you've got like the Marissa Mayers coming along to sit and hear the tale of your company. And then they feed back questions and answers and all sorts of stuff back to them about the startup. Another way of people being able to bring their startup. Now, they really focus on startups that open on the week of TechCrunch Disrupt, or have opened just 3 months prior. If you've opened a lot earlier than that, then you're not technically a startup, you're already underway, is the way I see it.
So it's really helped to get the profile, the brand out there of these new companies.
Yep. Now, the one thing I like about Disrupt is it's a great way for you to be able to understand and see where the market is going. Let me give you a point in case. There's one crowd called Cloudless. Now, Cloudless do one simple task. Manage your email. Take your email and they do stuff with it. So they take your email, they save it to Box. So it's kind of like a cloud service that watches your cloud services. So
a cloud that watches the cloud.
Exactly.
We're heading that way now, aren't we?
Exactly. So you've got these cloud services, but they don't often link together. They don't often share content together. So what Cloudless does is it'll take, for example, your Gmail messages and attachments and save them to your Box.net.
Okay.
So it just helps in being able to manage that information flow in a better way for you. We're going to show a bit of a video clip here of Cloudless in action on the stage, a little bit of their stuff. So check it out.
Hey everyone, my name's Elliot, this is my co-founder Vinod, and we're here to tell you more about Cloudless, a revolutionary way to work in the cloud. This is my friend Lise. She's a designer, and she's up to date with the latest tech, so she uses all sorts of cloud applications to help her with her daily job. Some of these applications include Dropbox, Asana, and Salesforce. But despite using these services really heavily, she still finds that email is very much central to her daily workflow. But email is a massive content silo, right? Stuff just gets stuck in there. And this gives Lise some huge headaches. And lots of other people as well. Just today, over 6 billion attachments will be sent by email. Large amounts of data are moving into email and just sitting there. That's a huge waste. And it causes everything to slow down. Luckily, Lise discovered Cloudless. Getting started with Cloudless is really easy. She installs the Chrome extension, connects her email account and her favorite cloud services, and she's ready to go. Gmail does a pretty good job of allowing her to view and download her attachments today, but she thinks it'd be extra awesome if she could move these files directly into other cloud services and keep them associated with the context of the original email. Well, now she can. She selects where she'd like to put the file, and Cloudless instantaneously replaces the file with links to still view and download it. But now you're viewing and downloading from Dropbox. This saves Lise a ton of space and keeps her stuff organized. Cloudless also works with multiple files at once. So Lise can very easily get these attached design assets over to the correct project folder in Dropbox.
Now, the interesting thing about this is that you can see the way they presented it. Obviously, a little bit of nerves and stress there because there's a lot of people there. I thought they
big investors. I mean, Ashton Kutcher, he invests in a lot of startups. He's a big player in the startup world.
Oh, look, in the audience there is a stack load of startup companies there and that are keen to try and invest in the next big thing. Cloud is definitely a big thing, and these guys are thinking about that and thinking ways of improving it. Let's have a look at how the judges responded back to them with this video clip here.
This is good.
A couple questions. So how are you thinking about distribution? What is your strategy for selling into the enterprise? There's a lot of folks that are in this space.
Right, yeah. So it's very much a consumerization model. We're appealing directly to the individual employees within companies. Our solution is really light and it was designed to be really simple and secure so that you could install it in your company and not worry about breaching any security. And then using those employees, we're lucky to start an email because email is inherently viral. So getting spread amongst employees within a company and then eventually using them to build up and make the ultimate sell to the entire organization.
Judges? I like it so much. I can't believe anything.
So there's one of the things you said. You're in an email. You go after an attachment. It gets moved over to your Dropbox. Does it get? You said it saves space. It gets deleted from the email?
Right. So we have two options right now. So you can either move the file completely, right? And what you saw was with a move. So we replaced the file with those links to view and download directly from Dropbox. Right. So that attachment is actually deleted from that email. If you don't want it to be deleted, you can actually just copy it over, and we still embed the links to allow you to associate that file to the original context of the email.
Okay, so that gives you a general idea of what happens in terms of this startup battlefield. Yep. Great idea, get up, and they basically do 5 or 6 a day, tune through some of the top ideas, and I've been quite impressed. There's been some really impressive ideas coming through on this the system. Now, one of the other companies I looked at was Handle. Now, again, it's all about managing your email. So
I see a theme here with a lot of the cloud services of managing a cloud.
Yeah, exactly. So Handle just started. They're looking at trying and speed up the process of managing your email, making it much easier to manage because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I get into work and I have sort of, I don't know, a couple of hundred mail messages that I've got to try and tune through before I start the day. These guys help that process out with a number of different aspects. It's worth going to have a look at them. They were definitely one of the big companies that got up and did their startup thing. So they're definitely kind of the genre, as I could say, that's coming into these startup companies. Now, there are a few different ones. Another one is a company by the name of Flawed.
This looks cool.
This is uber cool.
This is very cool. I like this one.
So think about the idea of maybe taking your Connect type device and plugging it into a space and being able to map that space so that you could tour it later on.
So it's virtual reality almost.
You know, you've gone to the real estates and you've kind of looked at a virtual reality walkthrough of a building or a home or whatever, and you kind of get a sense for it, but you don't really get a sense for it in its entirety. You only get the sense of it where it's right there. So rather than explain too much more, let's just check out this video from the guys at Flawed.
Hi everyone, my name is Dave Eisenberg. I am the co-founder and CEO of Floored. We're a New York City-based engineering company that's trying to radically improve the way that we communicate about real estate today. We're doing this with both a new hardware and a software solution, so let's dive in. We picked real estate as our first market because we were both frustrated and disappointed with the lack of transparency in this industry. This is one of the leading commercial real estate marketing services sites today. The information you're looking for is here. Of course, it doesn't tell you anything about what it would be like to actually lease that space. And this is true across the industry, from static floor plans to distorted photos to really boring videos. This industry has the terrible habit of giving you marketing content that what you see is not what you get. And so again, we've set out to fix that with a transformatively better visualization solution. Let's take a look. We use a new 3D camera that's produced by a company in Palo Alto called Matterport that gives us spatial data that allows us to show you spaces that look like this. This is a photorealistically rendered 3D model of a townhouse in Harlem that's undergoing a gut renovation. Notice how you can see things in 3D that you can't see in photography or video. We can look around at all of the different floors stacked on top of each other one at a time, like a nice real estate layer cake. And you can click in and walk in first person through the different floors. This is a super easy interface that's going to transform how we visualize real estate.
Okay, so what you can see there is basically this massive 3D model, which you can view from any angle, turn around, twist it, change upside down.
Pivot it, play, zoom in, zoom out, everything.
Exactly, so it gives you a much, much better idea of how that thing plays out. Now, I love this technology. I just love the way they're taking some of the devices that are out there and they're just innovating in that space, absolutely making those changes. So I think if you're really keen on hearing about startups, really keen to hear about some new ideas and thinking, TechCrunch is the place to go. So go to the TechCrunch website. They've got Disrupt there on the front page. It's all they're really doing at the moment because it's a major piece for what they're doing.
And there's a lot of news coming out of that space at the moment. A lot of news. So pick them up on social media as well, I would recommend.
Absolutely. Look, we have got, if you go to the website, we could probably make a 4, 5, 6, 12-hour show.
Which we're not going to. Which we're not going to.
Well, out of the content of the site. There are so many good ideas that are out there.
Yeah.
If you're really inspired by good thinking, go along and have a look at this thing. TechCrunch.com is the website to look at.
Cool. Now, moving on to the next topic. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so this title was obviously my play. Where we are right now, we are in the hardware wars. And I'm going to talk a little about this for a couple of minutes because I just want to, I've been watching what's going on in our industry, and one of the debates or the discussions you and I have been having is around where hardware is going. And we've got to, one of the points I was putting across in the audio show tonight was hardware. We've actually been spoiled for hardware over the last few years with Apple and Samsung and what they've done with the iPhones and I suppose the S3.
Yep.
And now any of the new releases that are coming out, the companies are getting a little beaten up, let's just say, by likes of ourselves and other people in the media around really what's going on with hardware. And where we are right now, if you look at the S4 launch that just happened for Samsung the other day, the reviews have been quite mixed, but yet that piece of hardware is actually a beautiful piece of hardware.
Yes.
But the problem is that the bar's been set so high. And these hardware wars have been going, I think, the most predominantly between Apple and Samsung. They have literally gone round for round in the legal courts with patents, but also with advertising. And a lot of people are getting a little bit jaded by all of this at the moment, is the way I feel and talk about it, because everything at the moment is talking about iteration versus innovation. And we look at the iPhone, and that was huge innovation. We look at the Samsung S3, huge innovation. The next releases are now just being called the S releases of things. And I think what we've seen is we've seen some companies starting to have a bit of fun with them.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So let's cut over to the video, and we'll have a bit of a joke about this.
I am delighted we could share in the serenity and joy of this beautiful day as we come together to celebrate the commitment of these.
Would you mind moving your enormous phone?
You mean the enormously awesome Galaxy?
Search, one-trick pony.
Aren't you a little young to have an iPhone?
You want to go?
iSheep, copy bots.
Autocorrect this.
Is there an app for that? Search karate. Karate!
You think if they knew about the Nokia Lumia, they'd stop fighting all the time?
I don't know. I think they kind of like fighting.
The Windows Phone Nokia Lumia 920. Engadget's Reader's Choice Smartphone of the Year.
So look, as you can see, Microsoft have a bit of tongue-in-cheek because I think they've been on the back end of a few backhanders from both these guys.
Yep.
But what are your thoughts about what you're seeing from the innovation versus iteration? Are we expecting too much now from every new release, and has the bar been set too high?
Yeah. I think it's a case that, what are we expecting more out of our smartphones now? Blenders, microwave ovens, coffee grinders?
I wonder, like in Star Wars, where the little hologram comes up.
Actually, that would be very cool. That would be innovation for sure. I mean, we could look at maybe going to the see-through mobile phones that we've seen in the Microsoft promos, or pretty much everyone else has looked at it too, Toshiba and the like. Look, I think we've definitely hit an iteration phase of our technology. We have now got to a point where we've got hardware that does stuff better than anything we've ever done before.
Agreed.
Processing power is phenomenal, and it will just get better and better. But processing power is not always going to sell a product.
No.
It's going to be what the product can do from here on in. Now, skip back to where we talked about with Disrupt. These guys are doing things around email, which has been around for eons.
Yes.
We've had email for ages. So why now are we only getting startups that are starting to tackle the problem of living with email? And I think that's what you're going to see now, is that technology innovation is not going to come out of the piece of hardware that's coming out of the factory, that you buy for $1,000. It's actually going to come from what the hardware actually does.
Yep.
Point in case, Samsung S4, I actually quite like it for a couple of things. It doesn't change on the Samsung S3's groundbreaking work that it set there. They didn't go back in time and say, we're going to change this around and make it less S3. They made it more like a better functioning S3. So they looked at a couple of the problems. They said, look, simple things like people wearing gloves trying to use their devices. In the past, we've had to buy gloves with fingertip sensitivity pads to make it work. Now what they've done is said, no, we can fix that ourselves, and we'll just do it this way.
And you've had a play with one of this. Here in Auckland, where we record the show, Samsung have actually spun up a pop-up store with all of their devices out there.
Yes.
And you got to play with one last night, didn't you?
Yeah, last night. And I got to admit, it is actually a nice performing phone. It actually performs really quickly. So, I think here on in, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Samsung, LG, Nokia, all those guys are going to start battling inside the software now. The hardware's good enough.
Yep.
The hardware's good for doing a lot of things and will probably keep us happy. It's going to continue to grow and be improved, but we're not going to open up a town hall meeting and have this huge brass playing band when every time we go from 8 megapixels to 16 megapixel camera.
Or 15% lighter and 10% thinner, right?
Exactly.
And that stuff is really where, if you look at the marketing from any of the vendors out there at the moment, they are really struggling on how to differentiate themselves, right?
Exactly. And this is where the ecosystems and the software on the phones are really going to start making the play. People will start buying it based on their desire to be part of an ecosystem. So Apple people will become even more Apple fans based when Apple come out with the new Apple TV, for example.
Or the iRadio when that gets released.
iRadio, everything is just built together in the one ecosystem, and it works well. People in Windows, people in Google, same deal.
Yep.
So people are going to solidify themselves within the frameworks and only move when someone comes up with a really, really compelling idea.
Now, in talking about the Samsung launch and the Samsung pop-up store we got out here in Auckland, you also got to play with the Samsung Note 8.
Note 8. Now, I have been on a journey. I have been looking for a tablet device. We looked at one last week, which I thought was just phenomenal, which was the IBM device, the little tablet 2. And I still like that device. It's nice.
10-inch screen, more of a desktop replacement type device where you'd use it at the desktop, whereas the 8, from what you said to me, is more of an iPad mini compete.
It is an iPad mini compete. Now, I'm not asking for the world here on this device. I kind of want to do things like keep track of notes and email. I want it to be available on 3G as well because, I like the internet. It's my friend. But I had to have a bit of a hands-on time with this phone. It is a phone. It's almost like a phone. This 8-inch tablet, it is really nice. It's nice and thin. It feels great. It's got a beautiful screen. It looks beautiful, and it has the S Pen functionality of the Galaxy Note 2.
Yes.
Look, it is a really nice piece of kit. The price, I think, is quite good.
And I disagree with you on this.
I know. We're going to have a debate about this till the cows come home. It launches tomorrow in New Zealand, on May the 1st, tomorrow for us now because we're filming on the night before. May 1st it will be in New Zealand, 599 New Zealand dollars retail.
And see, for me, the problem I have with that is HP have just released the HP Slate 7. It's an Android device, Jelly Bean, 7-inch base tablet, and they're selling that for 199 USD. So currency, 250, 260. Now, we haven't had a play with one, but again, it's still got some similar specs. I still think aesthetically, the Note looks stunning.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, if I'm going for price, $549 is really starting to get up there. When you look at the moment, when you go into a lot of stores with their Google devices or even a lot of the Windows 8 devices we're starting to see come into the now, you know, you can get a full-blown, I suppose, 10-inch space screen that can do all that sort of stuff now for around that similar price range. So I think if they're definitely looking at the iPad mini from a price point, but that doesn't always make it good. And the other thing is that most people are using these 7-inch devices for ebook reading. And if I'm going to do that, I'm sorry, I'm going to buy the Kindle Paperwhite every time. And that's only $199.
I've got to admit, I will be hard pushed to move away from the Kindle purely because of the battery life in it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just lasts forever and ever. So, look, you know, the Samsung Note 8 is out, as I say, May the 1st. Definitely go along and have a look.
Totally.
We're just waiting to get some information from the PR company just about the Samsung pop-up store or Samsung Studio. It's currently at Sylvia Park in Auckland. It's not sure when it's going to wrap up, but if you want to get a good look at some of the Samsung devices that are out there, definitely go along. It's just outside the Hoyt Cinema there. Lots of S4s to play with, so you won't get overcrowded. And I believe they're giving away prizes and whatnot there as well, so it's worth having a look.
One other thing that you saw there as well, besides the Note, was the Samsung new cameras.
The Galaxy cameras.
And these actually obviously have I suppose, a hybrid camera Galaxy device together, right?
Well, think of it as a normal camera with a Galaxy S3 attached
on
to
the back of it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a bit funny from the outside, but it's quite slick.
Yeah.
It's quite slick, and you know, I didn't get to have a huge amount of play with it, but it was very intuitive, very easy to use, possibly a little easier to use than I thought it would be in terms of settings. I couldn't quite change things, but you know, as I said, I had about a minute or two to play with that before I got swamped by people. So
now, there was a reason we were out that way the other night.
Oh yes, and it's all to do with that picture behind me.
Yes.
Let's roll the trailer.
You think you can't make mistakes? But the choices you make could get yourself and everyone under your command killed. But I believe in you, Jim.
Darkness is coming.
This could just be the beginning.
Beginning of what?
All-out war. I request permission to go after him.
I cannot allow you to do this.
Jim, you're not actually going after this guy, are you?
Let's go get this son of a bitch.
You are a pawn, Kirk.
Sir, there's a ship heading right for us.
You can't even guarantee the safety of your own crew. Now, shall we begin?
I'm sorry.
This thing was stunning. It's better than the first Star Trek in my eyes. But it is a amazing, amazing film. And the problem with this movie, though, is that we can't say too much because we'll give away too much.
Yeah.
And there are so many twists and everything in the whole film.
Yeah, so I'm going to start muting this guy quite quickly. Look, the storyline, if you're a Star Trek fan, you will love the storyline.
Yes.
It really plays on a lot of historic parts of the Star Trek story, which is quite cool. I mean, you look through and you're like, oh, this is just so awesome. I'm enjoying this. Aspects of the characters we're not even going to talk about because it will reveal the story. And, you know, it's worth having a look at the story. Visually, this thing is stunning.
And one of the things I want to call out that I noticed is as the movie was playing, I'm trying to think of my words carefully here, as the Enterprise goes through its different iterations, you start to see it sort of ending up looking like the 1960s Enterprise. And one of the things I loved about this was you got feeling as the movie ended that you could almost then start watching the 1960 movies because the ship and everything sort of had that flow and it worked really nicely.
Oh, look, there's
really cool.
There's a lot of attention to detail on this thing. There was one, I will talk about one part of the movie where they showed like a history of space flight. It was just a couple of models sitting on a desk, and it was just one of those subtle background things that flicked through and showed the iteration from the Apollo capsules all the way through to the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say much more about it, but it was just one of those background things, and there's plenty of these background clues and hints that just make you go, oh, that's so awesome.
Now, there's our friends over at filmguide.co.nz are going to have a review up soon.
Yes.
And I would strongly recommend you go have a look at that. They do some amazing reviews up in Film Guide. You can follow them on Twitter at FilmGuideNZ.
Yep.
And just see what's going on there. But the film itself is absolutely stunning.
Coming out May the 9th, definitely go and see it. It's definitely going to be worth the effort.
We're outnumbered. Outgunned.
I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I only know what I can do.
The ship's dead, sir. She's gone.
No, she's not. No ship should go down without her captain.
I believe in you, Jim.
Right. Okay, that's. I think that's pretty much us for the week.
Right, so where can everyone find us, keep a hold of us, what's going on, get the audio show, give me the download.
All right, so go to our website, www.geeksphere.tv. So we can get hold of everything. Articles, we put up the press release on the Galaxy Note 8 earlier this afternoon. We're also got a bit of content coming in from Aussie Tech Heads. Our mates across the ditch, they've done interviews with a few people. It's definitely worth having a look at a couple of those. They can be a little bit long, but they are really fascinating if you want to hear stories from people like Tom Merritt, who's with Twit TV. This Week in Tech.
Yes.
Is that right? Yep. So yeah, it's definitely worth having a look at that, and of course all the other news bits and pieces. We are also on Facebook, so you can go to facebook.com/Geeksphere TV. You can follow us on Twitter at Geeksphere TV, and we're at Google+. Just search for Geeksphere TV.
You can also watch us on geekzone.co.nz. Maurizio and the team there have got us up on there. And I also want to do a call out to another local podcast, audio podcast that's got up and going, nzenterprisetech.com. Alistair and the team are up and recording, and they give you an enterprise view of what's happening with technology from that side of things as well. So it's a great companion to what you hear and see from us as well. So big call out to the team there. Now, where can they follow you on Twitter?
You can follow me at UrbanKiwiNZ.
And you can follow me at Brad Bohr. Thanks for watching Geeksphere.tv. Give us feedback, team at Geeksphere.tv. Take care. Have a lovely week. See ya.